a look at the carburetor that came with the tractor. This is the original, I don't know, is it the original, but it apparently was on the tractor, and it came with the tractor because there's an aftermarket one fitted. So it's a 24 T2, and it has the right number on it there, 1202, and it has VO there for vaporizing oil. So I have to obviously make up a decision on whether or not to strip this down and try and get it functional. I do have some spares for these carbs, and the choke seems to be held on using this cable tie to kind of hold it on, because it is meant to spring back off. And on this side, the bracket for the choke rod is missing. Here's one here that's nearly complete. There's a bit broken off of there, but your choke rod will go in there, and from the dash then you could pull your choke on, and when the engine starts and it's happy to run without it, you can let it off and it'll work the butterfly. So this kind of a little bushing or something was put on there. So what would have to be done to get this functional is to take out the two screws in there on the brass kind of butterfly lad, take this off, push out the choke shaft, and then try and rebuild all of this. There's a bushing, and then there's this little cross piece there, and there's also meant to be another bit on the back of that works the throttle. So when you pull the choke, it gives it a little bit of throttle, and that helps starting. How you get away with using this without that bit on it is you just pull the hand throttle, give it a bit of throttle on the hand throttle. But so you can get away without that. But the biggest concern with this carburetor is the slow running or idle jet is broken and sheared off in the body of the carb. So the chances of drilling that out and getting that out without destroying the kind of cone taper that's in there that's designed to work against is fairly low, that we'd be able to get that out without making a dog's dinner of the treads and further in as well. So the slow running or idle jet, this one here doesn't have its spring on it, I think I've kept that in the box of spares, is something like this. And this is just the amount of air that's drawn into the, and this is a bad example because it's such a badly corroded carb, but there's a hole in there. Can you see it there? Yeah, you can just probably see it there, yeah. And that's going to filter in air into the Venturi and allow a mixture of air and fuel to go into the engine, so when she's ticking over. So there's meant to be a spring on this. By adjusting this, you're adjusting the amount of air that's going into the engine on slow running or idle, and you get a more level tick over. So the fact that that is missing is a bit of a concern. Well, not missing, but broken off in such a way that it's, you know, going to be hard to repair. This isn't a factory part either. I think I'm trying to see if I have one there actually left. That one was actually sheared off. I have some in a box, but I also have a little lad here I bought on eBay lately, and what we're looking for is, this is actually for, as you can see, a Petter industrial engine, but it's that with kind of a wing nut, kind of a wing that you can twist, and that's your throttle idle stop. So by adjusting that inwards, you're increasing the throttle or increasing the idle speed. So that is missing off it as well. I think I have some spares of those there. Now I don't know, is that actually sheared off in there? I can't really make it out yet. No, there it is. Yeah, so this would probably work as is, but yeah, it probably wouldn't foul the throttle rod there as well. It wouldn't get in the way. But I just don't know. I don't really know. I haven't really seen one of these main jets as well with such a big kind of a little tit sticking out of it. little, that raised piece there. This is aftermarket as well as a bolt. That's no big deal. Originally, well, this is a bad example. It's fairly well corroded, but it's just been a cross piece. That's not important for the function of it. So with all that in mind, like the throttle shaft looks good, the butterfly looks good. There's a good bit of wear in it. Probably take that out. There's a few little tricks I have to taking that out. But I just don't know, is it worth investing a whole lot of time when you can buy good ones of these for about 100 sterling and a bit of postage, and use this then as, you know, parts in the future. Maybe if you need them, you'd hope that after spending 100 sterling that you'd get a good unit. I've got a good few good units. This isn't like the distributor that has a month and a date on it that dates specifically to the tractor, because I think now, after seeing the distributor dated as 55 and May 55 at that, I prefer to overhaul the original distributor. So because these aren't actually dated and stamped, I would sooner just get a proper 24 T2 vaporizing oil one and strip that down and go through it, and maybe just have this stay with the tractor as for keepsake, or be able to say it's the original. But I don't know if it's going to work out. It's possible if you can get that out. I can try and get it out. I don't think I have a stud extractor that's small enough to go in there, and I'm fairly sure the threads are strange as well, and I don't know if I'd have the right threads. And it's not just a bolt or a screw, it's going into a machined taper that you have to be careful. If I run a drill bit in too far in there, you know, I'm going to destroy that taper, and I'm going to destroy the bit in there that's meant to meet up exactly with this. So I think it's probably a wise decision to go for a better unit, and to maybe just keep this for parts down the road, maybe if needed, or just to be able to say it's the original carb and keep it with the tractor. But we'll run it past the owner, see what they think, but that would be my take on it anyway. Some of the coolant's draining out there at the moment, so I'm just going over these with a torque spanner to see how they're doing. So I have it set to 70 Newton meters just to test it. They should be around about 65 foot-pounds, and that I think translates to about 88 Newton meters. So 70 Newton meters there anyway. So that one's clicking away. That's good. Might change to slightly, a little bit sticky there, that socket, so I'm going to change to 18mm instead of an 11/16 just to make it easier, rather than having to go pulling off the socket every time. We are only testing. That's all good so far. Lovely. Okay. A little bit of a pull in that there. Only 10 of them, so it doesn't take that long to check them. Oh yeah, there's a bit of a pull in that one there. There we go. And then what we'll do is we'll get all of this with the workshop vacuum in and loosen all of that, suck it up. And I've tested all the push rods there, took them out and rolled them on the workbench there. And if any of them were bent, you'd see that they wouldn't roll very freely, they'd be off. So they're all good. And then I'm still, I suppose, trying to work out what I'm going to do with. I've cleaned up most of it. I've plugged, I had them out, I plugged the holes for the push rods with white paper, and I've done a bit of, I've removed as much of the bits, we'll say, the kind of congealed oil as I can with a paintbrush, kind of a stiff paintbrush, and white, lots of white paper basically. And yeah, so look, so we'll turn this up now a bit. So we're at 70, so we'll go to 75 Newton meters. So 75, and we'll just see roughly where this is Newton meters. So That's just what's on this particular spanner, but it does give you a piece of paper telling you the corresponding value in foot-pounds, which would be imperial. So what we saying, 75 Newton meters. Okay, there's a bit of a pull on that, and a bit of a pull on that. That one's fairly good. Okay, lovely stuff. A bit of a pull on that. Oh yeah, good pull on that. Okay. Let's test them all again now. Okay. Yeah. It's not as much of a workout as a 20 diesel, but about 26 head nuts to tighten them. So we'll just go around and keep going around and making sure we're happy. Oh yeah, bye. Woo. Keep going around in there. They will stretch, and then when we get this thing running, we'll test again at least once, make sure everything is torqued down. We're not there yet, we just want to get all these up nice and level to where they're meant to be. But they're all there. Let's go around checking. Sometimes you can see some of these will stretch fairly straight away, so just want to make sure we're doing everything progressively. That when we do say that everything's 75 Newton meters, that everything is 75 Newton meters. Okay, so we're just going to bring it to, going to go up in fives here, so we're going to bring it to 80 Newton meters here and see how things are looking. And the kind of X pattern, so you're tightening from the inside in the middle outwards. I think that's what they say to do. Lovely, we're getting there. So what we'll do is we'll just go up in another two. We'll keep it nice and relaxed. I'll just try and go handy on this for the last little torque. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So we'll just quickly go around them again. Okay, that's grand. So I just want to keep doing that until I am happy. As no point in you watching me doing that every single time. We'll give it a break, let off the tension, the torque wrench, and we'll see how it looks. How's our coolant level? That's come out there full of lovely green antifreeze. I'll give you a quick look. Using our radiator hose pipe there just to direct the tap down is always handiest. Okay, that's our rocker shaft nuts there and washers. Yeah, so I'm just going to go and get the workshop back, hoover all that up, and I'll do another little bit of cleaning on this because I've left it a good while. I've also just taken the split pin out of this because this thermostat house is going to have to come off. We're going to have to seize our thermostat in it. If the thermostat that's in it, this is my attempt to walk in nice and steadily now because I know this camera stand is wobbly. If there's one, like you see them lads there, they're all original Ferguson Smiths like that. I would probably prefer to replace it with a modern one. Some people will tell you they're fine and you can test them, and I've tested them, but I sometimes am happy where they sit when they're not when they're cool. It just doesn't look like they're sealing fully, to me personally. So we have to think about getting this radiator off once that coolant's out, and then off of this, see what's in there, off of that. That is a fairly solid pipe, I can tell you. There's not much rubber about that. So I'd say we'll look at getting a radiator hose pipe set. That's just so it's gone completely solid and crispy. Yeah, and then we're going to start looking into things like taking off the wires. Don't like this kind of a household electrical earth wire, like, keep everything nice and simple and black, like, black wires don't stand out, like. We'll get a look, and as I was saying earlier, if we can get the cross pin out of the bottom of the shaft of this to allow everything to come apart, we will overhaul that. I have new bearings on the shelf there, lovely, and we can get all new parts for that. There's no problem at all. So that is I'm trying to think where will I go to next. I'll probably take out the spark plugs, get a look at them. Modern NGK Champion N21 equivalents. So we'll just have a quick look at them. See what condition they're in. That can sometimes tell a little tale as well. So we'll do that and just see. I'll take out one, we'll have a look at it, and then I'll whip out the rest. I don't want to be recording. Doing lots of recording of me just turning nuts and bolts. Okay. You can smell the kerosene off that. It's beautiful. Such a nice smell. Yeah, that's not too bad. It doesn't look like it's in there long. We'll be able to reuse that for sure. For sure, as they say. For sure. These are coming out so handy. We will just keep recording. Okay, a little bit oily, but look, I'll say nothing. Clean them up, check them for the gap, the right gap for the spark to jump across. The old school lads will tell you it's just the width of a hacksaw blade. The new school lads will tell you you have to measure it exactly between 28 thousandths and 32 thousandths of an inch. So I just get feeler gauges or a hacksaw blade or whatever and work with that. Wow, that gap is way too tight. I was going to bring a hacksaw over here and we'll show you. Just by eye it looks too tight, could be wrong. Just looks a little bit, yeah, struggling, yeah. So that's all right. We'll have to gap them. Right, so that's that. 4 spark plugs we'll get them all cleaned up. There you have not seen much use. Right, so that's good. I've been having to think about how I'm going to work this cylinder head, and I think the best thing to do is do a compression test on it. If it comes back good, what I'll do is I will wash whatever's left on the head after I've given it a good clean down with diesel, out with push rods, turn the engine over by hand with the starting handle, and then wash it all down into the sump, take out the sump strainer like we did in the last 20 diesel, and physically clean out the bottom of the sump with white paper and get it spotless, do an oil filter change, all of that. There's no point in lifting the head if it has good compression and there's a bit of congealed oil on the top of it. I don't think. There's probably people that would say lift it, put it into the parts washer. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, and I know from my own bit of experience with these, it's not always plain sailing when you lift the cylinder head, getting it to seal again. The block can be fairly well corroded away around the gasket and stuff, and you can end up having a lot of issues trying to get it to seal, over tighten the cylinder head. You end up pulling a bloody stud, you're getting helicoils, you're drilling, there's bits of oil filings going into bores if you haven't taped them off. It gets messy. This engine was probably running with that congealed oil up there for years, and the fresh oil ran over it and down the push rod tubes and back down to the sump. And you know, I'm trying to make a call here, and I think that's probably, we don't fix it if it's not broken, and a compression test will show us. Like, as a gold belly over there is working on low compression off the head, lap in the valves, savage compression, you know, on with the new head gasket and all of that. Had to torque it down about 3 times to be sure. It's a lot more work, it's a lot more re-stripping to get back down here. You end up breaking the seal on your rocker cover 2 or 3 times. You know, you might have rocker cover leaking. Not a big deal, but let's just try and, you know, I've no problem doing all of this work, but sometimes, you know, it's just a bit of dirt and you can clean it safely. Let's just try and do it as good as we can. And the engine can probably do with a good flush of diesel anyway down to the sump. So I think we'll probably be killing 2 birds with the 1 stone there straight away. So we can test that coil as well. No need to remove it to test it. I might just go and do that now for the crack. We're probably looking for something in around about 3.5 ohms to between 3 and 3.5 ohms probably. Yeah, a lot of these are around 3.4. Yeah, so we're going to put that down as a 3.4 ohm. We're going to say that's working. That's primary coil working. Secondary coil, take any of the... It's probably a bit dirty down there. Something's after coming up there, I think. How are we doing on that? Yeah, our coolant has finished leaking out there, that's good. Okay, it's very dirty down there. I have to get in there with a Dremel. Not getting a reading at all. Let's go up to the next. It's hardly. It's usually only twice it, like. $20K, I think, 20 yard actually, yeah. It should be in around about 7 or so, 7 something. Let's give it a bit of a scratch there to try and get a book. Oh, a little bit low for my liking. Now it is dirty, but it is showing up a reading, of course, but I need to go twice. We'll reserve judgment, we'll clean it up with the Dremel, we'll say nothing. So for that, I'm not going to do that on the side of the engine, so what I'll do is I'll just quickly whip it off and do all that cleaning up over at the bench. If there's any doubts, what I'll do is get a new one, but we'll try and see if we can keep this. These old Lucas coils are usually very usable. Now, do we have the nut coming or the whole lot? Doesn't matter, of course, but it's still a staying put. Well, that's even. Oh, it's not. No. Okay, lovely. Should be an LA12, is it? Yeah, and it says 61. December 61. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll give that the once over there and see what is going on with it. Like someone had gold paint on it before, maybe it was on a gold belly. Okay. Right, so that's okay. We'll give it a clean up and see. I'd like that secondary reading to be higher. I look up in the Gold Belly 35 and Matthew Ferguson 35 workshop manual, because that is the period that this would be met in, and that gives me primary and secondary readings. I know the primary should be around 3.4 ohms, it was that. Secondary, I have a feeling should be nearly twice that, but we'll have a look to confirm. And if I have cleaned it up and it's not showing that, I have a feeling that when that thing gets hot, it might just start cutting out, you know, the engine. So that is all right. Okay, that's grand. Another little bit done. There's one that I use in my tractor the odd time as well, that I already have, so I'm just going to do a little bit of this well cleaned up. So we'll just do a little test on this and see on the secondary coil what it's reading. And it's reading 4.35. Okay, so I know it runs on that resistance. So I've cleaned this up with the Dremel. Let me get a proper little contact with it there now and let it just settle. Yeah, so that's going to work. It's actually higher resistance than mine, so that coil is good. So we just gave it a, see it's starting to shine up in there. Give it a good shine up there. It has its washers on there. They're actually under the wire, so we put them over the wire. That coil is good, Mr. LA12. Just slightly later coil than what was on them originally. LA12 450/74 K and 1261. So Mr. LA12, you're going to see another day's work, I'm happy to say. This is an original one as well. What year is this one here? She's a 4th of 1960, and I used this in my Gold Belly. But my Gold Belly was given bothered there a couple of months ago, and I thought it was the coil. It actually wasn't. It was petrol that was in it for 3 weeks, and unfortunately that's what we're dealing with these days. Petrol goes off, and I thought it was anything and everything bar the petrol. So I'm not going to fit that because we might need a bit of, it gives a bit more space, especially when we're working on this distributor, getting that out. But I think what we'll do is we'll work on the heavier stuff. It's going to be a little bit more challenging, like this thermostat housing, and cleaning the cylinder head and hoovering that off. But that was just something that caught my eye. We have to also, obviously electrical wise, this is working, because we're going to need that for a compression test. As I said before, that is dated to the October 46, which is, it's strange, it's 12 volt. I'll have to take it out and have a look at it, but I think, look, from a torch underneath, that's what it's showing, which predates the tractor. If it isn't working and I can't get it working, I usually can do a bit on them. If I can't get it working, I have some overhauled ones there on the shelf, and we'll fit them in, and they're more period correct. So we'll see. Right, I just want to be able to do a job on these spark plugs and put them to one side and say they're done. So I'm going to quick clean off. Quick rub of sandpaper. They do look fresh. Checking for a gap. Okay, that one's good. Between 28 and 32 thou, with the hacksaw blade. Now, and why I do this, because these are usually always loose, is just grab them with this, and this will roughen it up a little bit. That's no harm. It's only going to make a better connection on your plug lead. Okay, simple as that. You don't want too little a gap, you don't want too big a gap. If they fall on the ground and they give that little lad a dunt, they can it closes the gap, and you'll end up with a small spark. Okay, that's all good. There was one there that was I felt was a little bit smaller gap. That was the first one, and I have that done already. So that's spark plugs ready to go. So they're just going to be put to one side with the parts that need a little bit more, that don't need work. So here's the distributor cap. What we're going to do is we're going to get a Dremel in at that, as I showed earlier on there. After scraping all the white stuff, I think it's that what is the fender there. Get to focus, and that lad's an offender. The rest of them are all, I think they're good, are they? Yeah, they're all good. So we put on a little grinding head on the Dremel. Fits down in there perfect. It's nice and flat. We'll just give it a bit of a clean up. Needs another bit, yeah. A little bit more. Nearly there. There you go. So because these are screwing, literally just screwing a little bit more, so it doesn't matter if you take a bit of this off. You can see that dirty dust coming out of it. That's not what I want. That's like brand new. Okay, any more of them needing to go there? No, let's give this first one another quick run. Yeah, it's looking a lot better there now, but yeah. Okay, so that's that. In here, this isn't great now, to be honest with you. These aren't great quality distributor caps at all. But if you do this to them regularly, you will keep on top of it. With a regular maintenance, just like you clean your pints. And you just give these a little scratch. If you don't have a nice original one with brass connections. Brass doesn't seem to wear or corrode as much. I run an original one on my own gold belly, and I like to keep a spare one as well, and I have a new one or two of these as well that I bought, not knowing the quality of them was bad. But that's all you do, you just get rid of that. So that is serviceable again, at least for some amount of time. Has its carbon brush there as well that contacts the rotor arm. So we'll take a look at the rotor arm. Fairly old rotor arm. and at least it has its rivet, because some of these didn't have rivets. Let me see, an original Ferguson one here. So this is an original Ferguson one, a 408 355, and as you can see, there's not really any form of rivet. There's a bit of plastic. A lot of them used to break, and what people did then was they used to do bodge jobs like that with glue and all of that for the sake of what would have been a very cheap part. And you can still buy these from the distributor doctor in England. Yeah, they were a fairly big lump of a thing. And as time went on, you could use this other Lucas one then. It's a little bit neater, but it still didn't have the rivet. But it did have an improved thing, and it has that little spring clip in it there. Whereas the original ones didn't have that. They just had the little lad there. So they did move around a bit. So yeah, it's one of them things. So if we get a shaft, we'll show you what I mean. So there's, oh yeah, that's a truss washer for the bearing. So we hold that. That's actually fairly good on that now. Some of them are loose. Now mind you, this is something that has a good bit of corrosion around there, and that's what's making it snug. But if you compare it to that, a very short click, whereas this is very much just pushes on. So it was an improvement that they made as they were going along. So I have new bearings for that particular 40243E Lucas distributor that's on the tractor, new ones. The earlier distributors had an RLS4, that's what it's known as now. These are actually to the made in England. I think it's a Hoffman bearing, I think. Yeah, so the new ones are sealed, they don't need any oil, but the ones for this one, as time went by, of course, the cut cost, they made them smaller. This one isn't sealed, so you do have to put a drop of oil down here every now and again, and that screw has a hole in it, and there's a felt in there, and it allows oil. It oils this advanced cam, and it also lets oil down in here. So that is the story. We have a new bearing for the distributor that's on the tractor, if we can get it apart. Sometimes you can't get them apart, and there's a little cross, what would you call it, a pin, and if you can't get that out, you're right now. So this is the rotor arm that came with the tractor. It is an old aftermarket part. Give it a little clean up, so the carbon brush will rub there. You see the mark. So it runs down along there, and it jumps up to the connection on the distributor cap. So you have to have it clean there, and you have to have it clean on that edge there. So I can't see why that shouldn't be functional, because some of them wear, like this old one here. It's fairly well chewed. See? So, and the same thing here. It's fairly well chewed. So this actually is a good enough nick, so I can't see why it wouldn't work. So we'll put it over with the parts. It has a spring clip on as well to keep a good snug fit. So we'll throw that over and we'll see down the road if it works. I'm just after sending off two original Lucas rotor arms there to a lad to help him out, and he just prefers them than the new ones. So that's interesting. I tested them both on my Gold Belly before I sent them anyway, so I know they worked. Okay, so we're just trying to, instead of going taking off loads of parts and you know, not really finishing them, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put everything that's done here, that coil is tested on the primary and on the secondary circuit. If there is, so you leave an ignition on it and them long enough, it does melt the inside of them. It melts the kind of gluey kind of insulation on them, and then when it cools down it kind of forms again and it works for a while, and you know, until it heats up. So that's the test for that. Obviously when it's going, the engine's going, will obviously keep it going long enough that we can test that. So I can continue taking some parts off. I did just take off the lead off the starter. It looks like a nice original lead, and I was thinking it was coming from the starter switch in under there, but it's not long enough, so it's actually too light anyway. It's from a car, I think. It's probably from whenever that was taken off. So I think what they did was, this was the original starter one, you can see the bend in it, but they lengthened the battery lead. They joined this onto the end of it. So what we'll do is we'll take off the battery lead, we'll take off that join, and we'll see, is the battery lead long enough to go to the starter switch, and we'll take off the end of it, the extra cable they attach to it. Then we'll replace this with gutter bolt with a proper battery lead bolt. I have some there, they have a square head that catches in there. So we'll get that done. Okay. Right. So we'll see what condition this is all in now. We might have a bit of a problem getting that up there, through there, so we'll just move around to the other side and see what we can do. It definitely has had the original starter cable attached to it. So rocker shaft, nuts and bolts. It probably should be kept somewhere else. Put them safe there now, somewhere in a minute. Yeah, I put money on it that is after getting. That's the original starter. The lead down to the starting motor from the starter switch. And it's after for lengthening the battery cable, I'd say. And we get that through there and out and into the vice. Tight enough. Now, these old cables are solid. Now, that's what I'm putting my money on. Lovely original. I love these cables. They're top quality. The connections that are on them are second to none. Let's get a sharp knife now at that. We'll see if we can peel it off. So there's some form of a connection going on here. Bolt or nut or something. We'll get a sharp knife at that and open it. You can reuse it then, if it is it, but that's a Ferguson cable by the looks of it. Because that's the original bit of braiding, wire braiding. The fitment of these is perfect. The holes in the end of them are the right size for where they're meant to go. All the ends are soldered on, they're brass. They polish up lovely. See what is in here now. So I'll come back. I'll just take a few minutes just to cut that off. I'll come back when we're ready to show you what's in there. So there's basically lengthened the battery lead using an original cable. When the starter switch stopped working, they took this cable from the starter and they sent the battery lead longer down to a manual push-pull switch. So what I'm hoping is that will actually work from the starter switch now, and I put money on it that that's exactly where it came from. So let's just have a look and see. I'll just give a rough estimate here and see. So that's that hitch down there. And there you go. Couldn't be clearer. So that is our original. We just need to do a little bit of work on the end of that just to insulate it a little bit better. But what we can do is, since we have the Dremel out, is just give it a bit of a clean up and get it ready, and then that literally can go into the parts ready pile. Look at that for quality, like, it's unbelievable. You're never going to see anything like that again. Ready for action, that is. Perfect. Just needs a bit of a washer on it, because you can see it was actually getting pulled into wherever I was going. So we'll be able to flatten that then with a washer. Yeah. I might just flatten it here actually a little bit. They're the perfect size hole for starter. That's the perfect size hole for the starter switch. So, you know, you just get that lovely, join. Now, I would obviously like to put heat shrink on that, but I'm not going to have anything. I don't think that's, yeah, it's very wide there. I probably wouldn't be able to get anything over it, but what I'll do is I'll have a look at least, and I'll come back if I have anything that'll fit. Okay, so we're just going to give this a quick go and see. It's better than nothing, and it's probably going to look a lot better than masking tape. I don't know, is it going to shrink enough, but it'll definitely shrink some amount. The key with this is not to go crazy, so there's actually some of the wire is there underneath. That's okay. So you'll just burn it if you go too long on it. So we're just trying to make things safe here, because we don't want it touching the metal of the starter, because what it'll do is it'll alert. Yeah, that's a lot better. It's going to be a lot safer. Okay, so it's going to come down like that now. A little bit bulgy here and there, but I don't want to go putting that in the vise and damaging and breaking any of the wires, because that's just going to be taken away from the current. So this now is going to be our battery cable. Is this going to be long enough to go down to where we want it to go? It looks like an original cable with non-original battery clamp on it. Right, again, look. So we're on there. where it has to go on. Maybe we need to be the other side of this throttle rod. I want the throttle rod rubbing it, but we have a fuel tank there, so that's not going to work. Okay, down behind the air filter. Okay, it's on there, and what we can do even is we can pull it up, I think maybe through here and over there, maybe, but regardless, you can't even see, sorry, regardless, that's going to work on the battery, whether it's this side of the bracket, or has to be this side because the battery's the other side. That's going to work, whether it's there or there, it's going to work. So that's our battery cable, positive. So let's do a bit of work on that. And then this too is going to go in the ready to go parts. So first things first, we get that looking good in there. And you can use a file or you can use a Dremel or whatever suits. I like the Dremel because it just doesn't take too much off. So we'll do a quick job on that. I'll make sure that there's no resistance. Okay, that's coming along nicely. See the brass showing up. I like the brass. All the old ones were brass. It might sound like I'm taking a lot off, but at the end of the day there is a massive gap in it there, so you can pull in fairly well. So now we need to have a look at what's happening. So as you can see here, there's not a whole lot of wire, cable in there, and it's not great. So we did a little job on the 20 diesel. We did a job on the 20 diesel already, the same issue. I think I put it up as a separate video. I think we're going to do the same job on this. So that wasn't doing anything on that particular side. We'll get that off as well. We'll get that bit of cable off there that's loose. And there's a load of washers there and all of that. So what we'll do is we'll do a tidy up job. There's a bit of a spring washer on that as well. It's after going very, very wide. So yeah, we'll do a job on him. Try and get that spring washer off. He's not meant to be there. Doesn't look great. Okay. There we go. That'll look a lot neater. So what we'll do is, what I always do now that we actually got them out, is slot them. You want to give these a little slot so that you'll be able to get a good grip on them and get a good tightening on them. That's number one. That's number two. Just clean up the slot in them so that we get them snug. Only takes a few little pushes of the hacksaw. Okay, so that wasn't going to go doing a whole lot. Okay, so we'll have to just shorten this a little bit. There's a lot of insulating still on that. Okay, I'm going to see if I have something to. So there's a good bit of a cut as well there. so it's not as wide as it should be. So I'm going to throw the battery into the tray and see how short we can make this. In other words, can I afford to cut back here a bit, where it's going to be thicker, and get it into that clamp. If not, I have a thinner clamp there. If it's positive, it'll work. But regardless, we'll have a quick look. So I'll go and suss out a few options here and see, because that's just too wide for that. So it's not great. Right, we'll have a look and see what we can come up with. This is a way better fitting battery clamp, so we're just going to give them a clean. Oh! Go just a little bit narrow on the. Is that narrow enough? No. Yeah, we have a narrow one here. Put that on, get in there, cleaned up properly, have it shining. Now, the resistance will be futile. Let's give in there a quick dart as well. I'm thinking now I'm just going to quickly test that on the battery and make sure that this is actually wide enough, and I'll come back if it is. It's perfect, 100% perfect. This will help now an awful lot. Tighten it up enough, but anyway, that's perfect. Now, let's get a look now and see what's happening here. So I said this fits really well. So wait it. A little bit sticking down there, I want to get that in. So normally, if this is a little bit loose, I'd put in a bit of metal. Sheet of metal right under the screws. What that would do is, instead of the screws going damaging these wires, it would kind of spread out things a bit. So we've got to go now and cut back a bit of this masking tape. What we'll do is we'll take that off again, we'll cut off the masking tape completely. We'll get a bit of proper heat shrink on the job, I think. Heat shrink is something, if you don't remember before you go putting things like this on, you end up sometimes not being able to use it. I'll just take a small bit off, I don't want to go taking much off. Hard stuff, this, I can tell you, the original stuff. Wow, that is some cable by quality. The quality of that is unbelievable. Now there's a way that this is going to want to be as well. It's going to want to be like that. So we want to have it like that. Okay. These are all just little things you have to keep in mind. Okay, and it has P on for positive. This is a nice old battery clamp as well. Bloody tight, I can tell you. Nice tight fit. That's good. Just try and get all of this in there nicely now. Okay, I let it go a little bit too far. We won't need heat shrink. I was thinking we might get away without it. What we might do is just get a socket. We'll tap that on another little bit. Socket. Just up to the edge. Nice and snug. Like so. Right. Now, we'll put back in our screws. These are from the other battery cable. I just want to see if they'll fit. Are they very long? No, they're no longer than what came out. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I'm trying to think, would I be able to bait down a little bit of sheet metal in there? Probably would, if I can. So I'm going to get something to bait down into there. And let's cut a bit of this off. I knew there was a reason why I didn't throw that bit of old computer out. Now, let me see what way this has to go. So we're talking something like that. Right in there. This is a little double folded piece of metal. Now it's probably a little bit too big, but we're just going to try and tap it in. Probably a bit too big. Might have to put a bit of a, because it is fairly well. It's fairly well tight as it is. Okay, so it's just needs to grip that cable a little bit more. Just get her. That's about as far as it's going to go. What that does now is tightens everything up in there. See, even without screwing the screws in, it's solid like. And when you do screw your screws in, you have that lovely little bit of metal after coming the whole way down underneath them. So now if we want to be real fussy, because we didn't have that tight enough, we can just bend that bit of metal back a bit and tap it in a bit more even. Now you see it right down to there. So now screws, it's not wrecking your breaking your cable. The cable starts getting loose and it twists. The screw eventually breaks the cable, and it breaks the one underneath it then when you tighten it. So at least now we're not going to have that problem. But we might have damaged this from tightening it from the vice. I didn't think of that. I have to get the round file at it there, just a bit of a burr on it there. With a Dremel or something, yeah. Let's get the Dremel. Didn't think of that. Forget how soft it is. We'll get it right though. There you go. Might use the other screw on this actually. It's a bit nicer looking. That's the one we slotted. There we are. Jesus Christ, that's solid. Wow. Oh. You wouldn't be able to do this before. It would have destroyed the cable. But now you have that bit of metal tapped the whole way down. Yeah. You can actually put a spanner on it. Yeah, it's solid. So there you go. Just what I do on them. There's no doubt now that'll work perfect. No doubt in the world. Takes a few minutes. Pays off. Yep, and this is the nice square head on it as well. That's dead put, and you're tightening it. So there you go. 2 original factory cables. Put them in the parts. Ready to go. Okay, where to next? I want to do a compression test, so I have to go take another starter to do that. So I might just drop the camera here, nice and handy, and bring over a few tools, whip out that starter and see if it's working. Right, this is fairly tight. Put a bar on to see if it helps. There we go. The law of the lever. And then once she's moving, she's grand. Leave that in there. The one underneath seems to be a size smaller. So this would have been a very common part. And when it went and stopped working, you just put something else in. Morris Minor, Mini, Austin, your later C40, Lucas starter just fitted. In many cases, depending on the gear and the Bendix and all of that. So let's see what the Bendix looks like on this. And we'll clean it up quickly and just have a look and see what date is on. I think it looks like 46 personally. So we'll see if we're right. Get it out. It might actually be hard to remove even when we get the bolts out. It might take a little tap down to actually shift it. So see what happens anyway. Get in on my little stool and definitely is an older starter than what was fitted to this originally. And if you ask me, it looks like a weaker starter. It doesn't look like it's up for the job. I know these are a low compression engine. Okay, so there's a bit of oil on that. But I don't see any oil under the tractor. Okay, so if we use this, it could get caught. Yeah, it'll get caught there actually. That comes out. So I'll just try and spin it out by hand. And then we'll give it a tap with a plastic hammer and see if it wants to come out. It looks like it's been in there a long time. So get the plastic hammer, give it a tap. Oh, it feels very light now. Oh yeah, it actually looks like, well, that's interesting. These are in the inside. Okay, that's interesting. It's turning. Nice. The 25206E M35, so these are meant to have 38, so it definitely is older. 4610 written on it. I presume it's 10th 1946. Okay, just don't know, is that going to be long term a good solution for this tractor? The Bendix is working, but if it works and it spins the engine fast, we will use it. Yeah, let's go and test it. One thing is for sure, we're not short of good battery leads anyway, that's for sure. So. Right. Bendix is working. Okay, we have a working starter. That's bloody turning fast. So that is happy days. No problem there at all. Lovely stuff. That'll do the finest. So this one comes apart from the other side, inside. That's interesting. Okay. Just feels a little bit dry. So. Do a bit of oil, I'd say, of some kind. Yeah. There's oil like bearings in this. So what I'll do overnight is I'll leave that sitting there. And for one night, what I'll do is I'll leave, it takes a second just for the oil to come. There's a bit of oil down in there, a bit in there. Not too much, as we don't want it splashing over the clutch and all that. Straight away that's starting. This end feel a lot better. And that hole in there. Yeah, I'm just interested in it. It's very interesting. I was trying to think, where are the brushes? Are the brushes in the end? We're going to leave it there for this evening. That's a nice little bit of progress there now. Bit by bit we're getting through it and we are getting parts ready. So this is going back on trickle charge. That'll keep that top nick and we're going to fit the rocker shaft back on this tomorrow evening just to do a compression test. And I think what I'll do then, if I'm happy with it, I'm going to have to start putting diesel there and getting it to flush all that down to the sump. I might turn the engine over by the handle there, and when it all goes down to the sump, then we can clean it all out and drain it all out, and then just keep doing that till we're happy that it's cleaned. But that's the rough idea of what we'll be doing now next. And we'll continue stripping. We'll take out the voltage regulator and that bracket there that seems to be a factory fitted bracket, and then we'll take out the starter switch down there that's well in underneath there. We'll make a bit of space, and if we have to, we'll take out the battery tray. I don't think there should be any issues there apart from taking off the air cleaner there. But yeah, that's basically where we'll be going, I'd say, with this Colleen now. So stay tuned, and sure we'll talk to you in the next one.